Let's see.
Can
Hare
you make
Krishna,
it
dear
over?
devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All brothers to Jagat Krishna Prabhupada, all brothers to Gurudev, all brothers to Samar Vaishnava devotees. Thank you so much, Visharupa Prabhu.
Rebol.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Can you make me
We're so
co-host?
thankful to have your association once again. If you want to share your screen, whatever, you may be able to do that now, Prabhuji.
Oh yeah. No. I'm just want to record my lecture. That's all.
Okay.
So shall we start?
Yes. Prabhuji, I remembered to put on my tilak because I knew you were coming to speak. and it is said that one quality of a Vaishnav is that whenever you see him, you get reminded to try to be a devotee.
Hey.
So when I remembered that you are speaking to us, at least let me put on tilak to look like a devotee. I always like, especially your tilak, you apply very beautiful tilak. So, Jai. So we may put the verse on the screen and then Prabhuji, you may take it over from here.
Yeah.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Just a minute.
Two 2.9.9.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, 9th chapter, 9th verse. Swastasmai swaloka bhagavan sabhajitaha sandarshayamasa param nayat param vyapeta sanklesha vimoha sadhavatam swadrushtavadbhir purushair vishtutam. Okay, so we'll read the translation. Go ahead, please. Go ahead straight. Maybe translation straight. Yeah. The translation is the personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons, freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. Purport: the troubles of penance accepted by Lord Brahma were certainly in line of devotional service bhakti. Otherwise, there was no chance that Vaikuntha or Swalokam, the Lord's personal abodes, would come visible to Brahmaji. The personal abodes of the Lord, known as Vaikunthas, are neither mythical nor material, as conceived by the impersonalists. But realization of the transcendental abode of the Lord is possible only through devotional service. Thus, the devotees enter into such abodes. There is undoubtedly trouble in executing penance, but the trouble accepted in executing Bhakti Yoga is transcendental happiness from the very beginning, whereas the trouble of penance in other processes of self-realization, Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, etc., without any Vaikuntha realization, ends in trouble only and nothing more. There is no profit in beating the husk without grains. Similarly, there is no profit in executing troublesome penances other than Bhakti Yoga for self realization. Executing Bhakti Yoga is exactly like sitting on the lotus sprouted out of the abdomen of the transcendental personality of Godhead. For Lord Brahma was seated there. Brahmaji was able to please the Lord, and the Lord was also pleased to show Brahmaji his personal abode. Srila Jiva Goswami, in the comments of his Krama Sandarbha annotation of Srimad Bhagavatam, cites the quotations from the Brihat Aranyaka Upanishad, Vedic evidence. It is said that Yajnavalkya described the transcendental abode of the Lord to Gargi, and that the abode of the Lord is situated above the highest planet of the universe, namely Brahmaloka. This abode of the Lord, although described in revealed scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, remains only a myth for the less intelligent class of men with poor fund of knowledge. Herein the word Swadrishtavadvihi is very significant. One who has actually realized his self realizes the transcendental form of one's self. Impersonal realization of the self and the Supreme Lord is not complete because it is just an opposite conception of the material personalities. The personality of Godhead and the personalities of devotees are all transcendental. They do not have material bodies. The material body is overcast with five kinds of miserable condition, namely ignorance, material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. As long as one is overwhelmed by these five kinds of material miseries, there is no question of entering into Vaikuntha lokas. The impersonal conception of oneself is just the negation of the material personality and is far from the positive existence of the personal form. The personal forms of the transcendental abode will be explained in the following verses. Brahmaji also described the highest planet of the Vaikuntha Loka as Goloka Vrindavan, where the Lord resides as a coward boy, keeping transcendental Surabhi cows and surrounded by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune. Chintamani prakara sadma shukalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhir abhipalayantam Lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Brahma Samhita 5.29. The statement of the Bhagavad Gita, Yad Gatva Nanivartante Tad Dhamam Paramam Mamam, is also confirmed herein. Param means transcendental Brahman. Therefore, the abode of the Lord is also Brahman, non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is known as Vaikuntha, and this abode is known as Vaikuntha also. Such Vaikuntha realization and worship can be made possible by transcendental form and sense. Hare Krishna. Omakyana timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare. So we all know the story and the history of how Brahma was born. He was born on the lotus flower, which was emerging out of the navel of Lord Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And he was born on lotus, and the lotus was Brahmaloka, the highest abode in the material world, the 14th topmost planet. And the first feature of his existence was that he was completely in darkness of ignorance. He was wondering, where is he? Who is he? Why is he born? What is the purpose of his life? What is the function of his life? So many questions of ignorance were coming up in his heart, bothering him, disturbing him, frustrating him. So all of us are born in darkness of ignorance. Om Ajnana Timirandasya. All of us are born in the darkness of ignorance. Also, all of us are born as the fourth class people because of no samskaras. So this is where we begin. And everybody who feels proud about oneself, of whatever we are today, we should be reminded of our original status, that we are born as fourth grade and we are born in full darkness of ignorance. And then once we accept this, it becomes very easy to become enlightened. If anybody feels that he is knowledgeable, he knows a lot or she knows a lot, that is a disqualification to learn anything. So once you think you know, you don't need to know anything more. But once you think you don't know, there is all the world that you can know, and everything else in existence you can learn. So knowledge of our ignorance is also a sign of humility. One can be ignorant, there's no problem. But one cannot be proud and be ignorant. One can be ignorant but humble. The moment we become humble, then although we are ignorant, all the knowledge that is required to be known, to be realized, can be known and realized by us. Because the platform of the entry of enlightenment is humility. So Brahma was not proud, although he was the greatest living being, the first living being of the universe. He had that genuine query in his heart: who am I? Why am I here? Because of that status of the mind, he received the transcendental instruction in two words: tapaha, tapaha, tapaha. TA and PA, which means austerities. That's quite significant for all of us to think and ponder and meditate. Tapaha means tapasya, that means austerities. So the first thing that Brahma did in his life is not enjoyment. He was not told, or he didn't go for enjoyment. The first thing as a human being he did was austerities. So austerities is actually the hallmark of the beginning of human life. When we do austerities willingly, voluntarily, That means we are beginning our human life. When we accept some rules and regulations for our purification, for our spiritual upliftment, our human life actually begins. You may say Brahma's life is not human life, it is a demigod life. But demigods are part of human species. There are 400,000 species of human life, and the topmost of that is Brahma. So Brahma also is the topmost human being, which is supposed to be a demigod. Indra also is a human being who is a demigod. And there are also human beings who are like aboriginals, who live like almost like animals. So as long as we have human body, we are given the ability to perform austerities. Animals have no inbuilt capacity to perform austerities. Human beings are given that inbuilt capacity of performing austerities. To use that ability or not is in our hands, but the capacity to perform austerities is there in human beings. And why this capacity of performing austerities is given to human beings? So that we can ascend or um, take ourselves uplifted towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is our goal of life. Until the time we just think of keeping enjoyment our goal as our goal and keep attempting to enjoy, we don't actually rise up from the animal platform. Because animal platform means simply to enjoy, try to enjoy. In all conditions of life, the senses demand enjoyment, senses demand gratification. So the animals are not doing anything else but trying to enjoy the senses. And as human beings, when we keep doing that, then we don't rise above the animal platform. We still are stuck in our pre-human era, that is animal life or lower species of life. The day or the time we begin austerity, we become human beings. That doesn't mean that we have become devotees. Human being means austerity. That means you don't do certain enjoyments because you have to pass an exam, a competitive exam to get admission to a professional course, or you want to get married, so you have to lose weight and look attractive. So you accept some austerities of diet to become thin and attractive, or you go to gymnasium to uh, take top number one health competition. So to achieve something so-called higher position, we accept some austerities willingly, and that is the sign of human life. Even though it is in the pot of material life, when we accept something, some difficulties or voluntary inconveniences to get something higher, even in the realm of sense gratification, that can be called as human being. But these kind of austerities that we do for material gain, they prove to be temporary because the fruits of these austerities are temporary. They don't satisfy us for a long time. They don't make us feel fulfilled, and we are attracted by some other achievement, and we accept another set of austerities to achieve the another set of enjoyment. Till the time we get totally frustrated, and these austerities then become meaningless. We go on accepting variety of austerities. Sometimes we feel we should give up sweets. Sometimes we feel we give up spicy things. Sometimes we think we'll give up oil, and sometimes we feel we'll give up fried food, and so on and so forth. But all the benefits of such austerities are temporary, so they never satisfy the soul completely. Now, what is the speciality of Brahma's austerity? Brahma's austerity is connected with the Supreme Lord. or you can say before the Supreme Lord, it is connected with the devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Anything that is connected to devotional service becomes meaningful or complete or perfect. If we do austerities for simply the sake of austerity, then we become hard-hearted, become very stone-hearted. When we perform austerities to please the Lord, then those austerities make our heart softer, malleable, flexible, acceptable by the Lord, soft like lotus. Even if we are detached, if we are, renunciation, if we want to achieve renunciation, and that renunciation is for the sake of renunciation, that is your pride, then that kind of renunciation makes you hard-hearted and sometimes insensitive to others. Because anything, any so-called human attribute, if it is accepted or cultivated without connection with the Lord and His devotional service, they simply become dry-hearted. So even renunciation, if it is coupled with the Lord, then that renunciation becomes true renunciation from the material world with true attachment to the Lord. Our renunciation becomes complete and perfect and meaningful when it is coupled up with attachment to the Lord, not detachment. Attachment to the Lord is helping us to get detachment from the material world. So here, Lord Brahma is directly able to see the darshan of the Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. Isn't it amazing? The first thing the person is seeing by the virtue of his austerity is the goal of life, the ultimate goal of life. So when our austerities are in right direction, then we also may see the first thing, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the goal of our life, the Vaikuntha planet. Because Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the Lord is Vaikuntha and Vaikuntha is the Lord. They are not different. The abode of the Lord and the Lord, both are not different from each other. And what a fortune, because the facility or the ability provided by the Lord to the human being, which is of performing austerities, if it is connected with the Lord for the sake of the Lord, then what we see is the Lord. What we achieve is the Lord. What we get connected is with the Lord and His abode. And Brahma's life is proof of that. And just imagine why Brahma's service is so perfect. Because in the first place, in the first thing in life, he has performed austerities to please the Lord. He didn't perform the austerities just to, elevate himself. His elevation is in connection with the Lord. His advancement is in connection with the Lord. It is not independently designed or practiced for his own self aggrandizement. He's not trying to glorify himself by becoming a great renunciant or great tapasvi or a great austere person. His austerities were performed to know the truth and to realize the truth. They were not for any selfish purpose. Because he used the capacity to perform austerities, to know the Lord, his austerity is perfect. All of our sages that we glorify, that is Narad Muni or Vyas Muni, Shukadev, Angira Muni, all of their austerity is perfect because it is in connection with the Lord. But by the way, we should know one thing very clearly, that in the realm of austerities, the gold medalist is not Brahma. The gold medalist is Hiranyakashipu. And amongst the sadhus, The gold medalist is Dhruv Maharaj. But still, the topmost austerity man is Hiranyakashipu. Nobody could beat him in the capacity of austerities. But why it is not glorifiable? Because it was for selfish purpose. It was with demoniac mentality. It was with animosity to the Supreme Lord. That is why purpose of the austerities is very important. Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Hiranyaksha, so many of demons, they have performed such severe austerities. You name the demons, you called Dhenukasur, Arishtasur, Putana, Shakatasur, Trinavarta, they were all great ascetics. When you could have seen them while performing the austerities, you could have bowed down to them. They were so austere. Hiranyakashipu was standing on one toenail for 1,000 celestial years, which each day consisted of 180 earthly days. So much time he stood on the toenail, and fire was emanating from his body, from his head, burning the Brahmaloka also. Brahmaloka also felt the heat of the flames coming out of the head of Hiranyakashipu standing on earth up to the 14th planet. You can imagine. But that austerity is not glorified because it is meant for only selfish purpose, to aggravate the false ego and to become more demoniac in attitude, in animosity with the Lord. So that is why any attribute of human life is meaningless if it is not connected with the Lord. You can become a great wealthy man. You can become a great knowledgeable person. You can become very strong. You can become very beautiful. If it is connected with the Lord, otherwise, each and every attribute that we have, each and every opulence that we have, becomes the source of our degradation, becomes the source of our fall down. We want to elevate ourselves, but we degrade ourselves. And each and every opulence that we try to achieve through austerities, through hard work, if that is meant for the Lord, then automatically the opulence is maintained by the Lord, and automatically the opulence goes on increasing. It doesn't become temporary. All the attributes that we have, if they have no connection with the Lord, they automatically become temporary. That is why Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravan, they were powerful, indefeatable for some time of their life, for a definite period of their life. They were not infinitely powerful and influential all throughout the existence of the material world. They had their time, beginning and end, because their attributes, opulences were disconnected from the Lord and meant for only selfishness. While the devotees like Sudama or Prahlad, many other devotees, their opulence was eternal because they were not looking for the opulences to elevate the selfish purpose of life. That is why their opulence is more attractive to the Lord. Lord gets more attracted to these opulences, which are connected to Him and meant for Him and offered, dedicated to Him only. And I was talking about the point that how fortunate Brahma was, because the first thing he was born, he had ignorance, but he was humble. Because of that, he heard the word tapaha. He got direct, subtle instructions from the Lord Himself within the heart. Then he was awarded ready-made realizations of all the Vedas, all the Srimad Bhagavatam in his heart. He didn't have to study anything. He had Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavai. Everything was given ready-made realization. It's like you don't have to eat grains. You get amino acids directly in your blood. There's no process of cooking the grain, biting the grain, chewing the grain, swallowing the grain, digesting the grain, processing the grain, assimilation of the grain, converting the grain to amino acid, 10 types of amino acids, then circulating that in the blood, then nourishing the muscles of the body. There's no long process. There is intravenous injection of amino acids straight. Similarly, no effort of reading scriptures, discussing scriptures, analyzing scriptures, scrutinizing scriptures, practicing devotional service, and then coming to a realization after a long time. Tits and bits, tits and bits, and tits and bits. He got that spiritual realization, complete and perfect spiritual realization in totality, right within his heart, not through his brain and not through his senses, which performed the devotional service. That is the status and greatness of Brahma. The Lord felt that he was eligible through his humility and austerity to gain, to attain the totality of realization directly in his heart. How fortunate. And because of that, his service is perfect. And because of that, he goes on performing his service. You see, every demon will fight against every demigod. They have fought against Shiva, they have fought against Ganesha, they have fought against Indra, Chandra, Vayu, Varuna, everybody. But you have not heard of any demon fighting with Brahma. Have you heard of any demigod having a war with Brahma? In fact, every demon has performed austerities to please Brahma and to get something from him for their own selfish purpose. Nobody had dared to attack Brahma and declare a war against them. So this is our great grandfather, the first living being, the most wonderful, most perfect living entity, the first citizen of the universe. And then this same Brahma, because of his humility and because of his situation of having ready-made perfect realizations in totality in the heart, he performed tapasya again, and he asked for the Lord to give the dust of his lotus feet and the dust of his lotus feet of all his devotees. That is why this Brahma became mountain in Barsana. From the topmost realized soul in perfection, in pleasure of the Lord, to the position of a stone, inert stone, to become Mr. Nobody. From Mr. Everybody, he became Mr. Nobody. And that Mr. Everybody to become nobody was his advancement, is not degradation. The most active personality to become most inert personality was his advancement. For that, we have to have spiritual vision. He didn't degrade himself to a stone from being four-armed Brahma, the first citizen of the universe. He made himself suitable to receive the dust of Krishna, Radharani, Gopis, and the cowherd boys in Sri Vrindavan Dham in Barsana. And by this humility, which was based on true realization, he could witness the most intimate pastimes of the Lord in Barsana. These pastimes of the Lord in Barsana are most intimate and most esoteric pastimes of the Lord. They were never disturbed by intrusion of any demon. That is another speciality of the pastimes that were watched by Lord Brahma. There was no interruption by the entry of a demon disturbing the pastime, making the Lord leave the pastime and kill the demon. He didn't observe such kind of pastimes. He observed pastimes which were never to be interrupted. Such intense and intimate pastimes of the Lord were observed by Brahma. And what was the effect of observing such pastimes? Brahma, although being stone, was always fluid in condition, always melting in ecstasy. Every footstep of the Lord would melt the stone of Brahma into butter-like softness, creating footprints of the Lord and his devotees on his body. And he would always remain in fluid condition. Although he was a mountain, but he was soft like butter. As long as Krishna was performing pastimes, he always remained like a fluid condition. You cannot imagine the ecstasy of Brahma while observing these most private, intimate, confidential pastimes of the Lord. Brahma was in such a condition that he couldn't control his emotions. He was stone that time, fully stone mountain. He would simply melt and melt and melt, and again form himself, and again melt, and again form himself. He created such a platform for Krishna's most wonderful pastimes. So, in short, we need to be humble. We need to perform austerities. That means we need to follow rules and regulations with a willful heart under the guidance of a spiritual master. And the purpose of our austerities should be only to please the Lord and not anything else. If this is what we do in our life, unfortunately, if we begin our life like that, then spiritual realization of the self, of the supreme self, and of the supreme abode of the Lord is not at all difficult. Hare Krishna. So this is in essence the today's verse. Lord Brahma is such a glorious grandfather of ours. He exemplifies these qualities in his personality, inspires us, guides us. You may be very happy to know that in the whole creation of the material and the spiritual world, in the entire creation, material and spiritual, there are only two personalities who have performed the austerities in opposite direction. Why do I say opposite direction? Because all of us do austerities to go up, to do something higher or get to a higher position. For example, I want to give an exam. I want to give up watching television, going around, wasting my time playing. I want to study, study, and study so that I can get admission into professional college. I can become a doctor or an engineer. And then again, I accept more austerities to become postgraduate. Then I do more austerities to further become PhD, doctorate. But I never do austerities to become a KG student from PhD. Now I take up exam. I give up exam now. I give an exam. What are you doing exam for? Now I want to again take admission in KG kindergarten. No. We always take up any austerity to go higher up. But these two personalities, Brahma and Uddhava, they had attained the highest, uncompetitive position. Brahma's position and Uddhava's position, they were never having any competitors. Nobody could compete with them. They had unrivaled position in their bhakti from all points of view. But Brahma performed 120,000 years of tapasya to become a stone, a four-peaked stone in Barsana. Uddhava, from the closest ever position to the Lord, performed austerities in Vrindavan to become a blade of grass, to be trampled upon by the gopis. Who would like to give us the position so close to the Lord? Even gopis would envy him. How close he is to the Lord from all points of view. How lucky he is. We wish we could have been like him, so close to him, never separated from the Lord. And that Uddhava, who was envied by the gopis for his position, left that position of being close to the Lord, came to Vrindavan, performed austerities to become a blade of grass far, far away from Krishna, so that the gopis could easily walk over him and he would attain the dust of their lotus feet very easily. I don't think any of us have that courage or guts to perform such a reverse austerity. You don't have daring to do austerity. Oh, I want to become the devotee when I entered the temple. The way I was on the day I entered the temple. I want to perform austerities to become like that. No. I want to perform austerities to be known as more advanced, more and more advanced. I don't have the courage to become like Brahma or like Uddhava. That is why they become unique people. Only two people, unique people. But nonetheless, their um, activity is very inspiring and exemplary. More than we becoming inspiring or inspired, the Lord gets very happy to see their activity. The Lord is extremely pleased. The Lord was very pleased when Uddhava was with him all the time. The Lord became more pleased with him when he left him and became a blade of grass in Vrindavan Dham. He was so pleased with him that he chose him to deliver his wives after his departure. He chose Uddhav. He sent his wives to Uddhav at Kusum Sarovar. He appeared and delivered by speaking Srimad Bhagavatam for 30 days to Krishna's wives. So even gopis, they adore Brahma because Brahma created a very, very beautiful platform, very private platform for gopis and Krishna to perform their most intimate, loving pastimes of Barsana Dham. All glories to Lord Brahma. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful delivery. And dear devotees, if anyone may have something to say, something to ask, realizations to share, please, you may unmute and go ahead and speak.
I will unmute.
Prabhuji, as you were speaking, I was just thinking, so.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry. I just read the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and Prakashananda. Prakashananda was telling Lord Chaitanya, you are sannyasi. Why are you doing what you're doing? And Lord Chaitanya told him, well, my dear sir, my Gurudev told me I'm a fool.
No, fool number one.
Yes, fool number one. I was thinking to myself, I will not address myself as a fool, certainly not. And if somebody addressed me as a fool, I'm going to be very angry. But we seen, like you say, Uddhava, Brahma, going down to this position, all for the purpose of serving. So I'm just praying on behalf of all of us here and whoever will be listening to this lecture that somehow we develop this attitude of service, that no matter what it is, we serve the Lord, and even higher than that, to serve the devotees of the Lord. Because Uddhava did not take this position to serve the Lord, but to serve the Lord's devotees. So thank you so much for sharing these wonderful pastimes. Yes.
Very good.
Hare Krishna. Madhavan, Prabhu, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you
Prabhu.
very much for your very wonderful lecture, very enlightening. Just my simple question, during the purpose, it was stated that the material body is overcast with 5 kinds of stable conditions.
So then, Prabhu, you have to interpret.
Okay. Go ahead, Madhavan, Prabhu.
Oh, okay. So the material body is overcast with 5 kinds of unstable conditions, mainly material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. Please, I want a bit clarification on the aspect of absorption.
Yes, absorption in the process of sense gratification. Completely absorbed. No diversion, no distraction, but fully absorbed into enjoying the senses. Each and every aspect of the senses, each and every object of the senses, trying to combine the sense object with the senses and enjoying and choosing and chewing and chewing and chewing to the last bit, and then trying one more, trying second one, trying third one, and not giving up without any interruption, uninterrupted process
Sense
of
gratification.
trying to enjoy is called as absorption. But when the same absorption is, directed to the Lord, then that absorption becomes a great asset. In fact, that absorption directed to the Lord becomes the definition of bhakti. If we were to define bhakti in one word, it is absorption. But the object of absorption is very clear, that is Supreme Lord. Then we become completely absorbed with all our mind, all our senses, all our intelligence, all our self, completely in the Lord. We repose ourselves with full attraction to the Lord. Even that is absorption. But that absorption, we win the Lord with that. The Lord becomes ours. We become the Lord's property. Lord becomes our property. So it is a disqualification if it is directed towards ourselves. If it is directed towards the Lord, it becomes the greatest of qualities. When the Lord wants to sell himself to us. Is that okay?
It's okay. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it.
Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. Anyone else?
Anyone else with a question, please? Prabhuji, if I may put the verse back on the screen, because I have a question from the pulpit.
Sure.
It's interesting how Srila Prabhupada writes his pulpit. Srila Prabhupada states that Brahmaji was able to please the Lord, and the Lord was also pleased to show Brahmaji his personal abode.
Yes.
So my question is, how does one know that he's been able to please the Lord? And when the Lord is pleased, how does the devotee who pleased the Lord understand that the Lord has been pleased? Because all our purpose of rendering service is to please the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Now,
the first symptom,
okay,
the pleasure of the Lord, is that the spiritual master is pleased.
Okay.
And also the devotees are pleased. When the devotees are pleased with you, you can rest assured that the Guru is pleased with you and the Lord is pleased with you. And the sign of their pleasure is we become humble like a blade of grass. If that transformation is taking place in us, we feel ourselves utterly more and more unqualified. That is a sign of the pleasure of the Lord upon us. So what is the most pleasing thing is not that we are very knowledgeable, very shining with effulgence or so many other things. What is most attractive to the Lord is our humility and gratitude. When we become utterly grateful for what we have, that means the Lord is pleased with us. The devotees become very happy with us when we are humble and grateful. Every devotee will like you, like to be with you, like to serve you, or like to have your company. That attribute of humility and gratitude is the sign of the pleasure of the Lord. Otherwise, we are unhappy, complaining, grumbling, criticizing somebody, showing our upset nature. That's not a sign of pleasure of the Lord or his devotees. We accept devotees as they are. We remain grateful. We become humble. We want to serve them always, looking for service. That attitude is a symptom of the pleasure of the Lord. And then when the Lord is pleased, suppose you please anybody, you please suppose your god brother or your friend or anybody, what the person will do? Whatever the person has best, he will give you, or he will show you. He will reveal it to you. This is what I have. This is what I owe. I own. Otherwise, unless he is pleased with you, he will not show you what he has, the greatest thing in life. The most dear and the greatest thing that you possess, you show to the person whom you are pleased with. The Lord shows his abode, the most precious thing that he has, his abode, his devotees, his entourage, his paraphernalia, his beauty, all things that he has, he possesses, he reveals to you. That's why as soon as Lord Brahma pleased the Lord showed him his Vaikuntha abode.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. But if I may follow up with the answer, I know that there is a hand up. There is this common saying that to every rule there is an exception, and I'm wondering if there may be an exception to this fact that the way to tell whether one has been able to please the Lord is when the guru and the devotees are happy, are pleased with you. There may be rare but possible instances where a devotee may be trying his sincere best to follow the instructions of the guru who is distant away because he is not directly in proximity with the spiritual master, with the guru. He is there with his fellow God brothers, God sisters serving the Lord. And because lots of the devotees are not trying to pick themselves up, the other devotee is trying his best to serve the Lord. But because he's trying to serve the Lord, the rest of the devotees are not very happy with him. And I do not want to mention names, but this is something I have experienced. So
that is because of envy.
Okay.
And we don't need to take these kind of devotees seriously. In such conditions, when there are devotees displeased and guru is pleased, you choose to please your guru. That is more important.
Okay.
There are many times situations where many devotees become upset with you, but with your effort, guru is pleased.
Okay.
So at that time, you have to understand more important is to please the guru. If you are not so fortunate to have guru and devotees all pleased together, you have a choice. Then you should try to please your guru.
Okay.
In the material world, when we are living and performing bhakti, it is not possible to please everybody all the time. In that situation, you have no option but to please your guru all the time. At least attempt and try your best. If it is a situation for you that you just cannot please everybody else in the world, then you must not fail in pleasing your guru.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thakur Murari Prabhu.
Thakur Murari, please, you may unmute.
Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Sri God. Yes, so just a little bit more on austerity. Could you, I think, I understand, but I'm just thinking maybe just a little bit more expounding on austerity.
Define again austerity.
Yes.
Austerity is defined as accepting inconveniences voluntarily to please the Lord. In simple words, three things are there. Accepting inconveniences. Willingly is second word. Voluntarily. And purpose is to please the Lord. If you are accepting austerities willingly to please the Lord, then you are performing austerities. If you perform, if you accept, many people are traveling in trains, in Mumbai, traveling in hot sun, rain, and cold, 2 hours one way, 2 hours other way, 4 hours a day, but to earn money to drink wine and have sense gratification. So that's not austerities. They are doing willingly, traveling willingly, accepting inconveniences, but to earn money and to drink wine in the night, or to another sense gratification. So that's not austerity. That's called as shrama evahi kevalam, waste of labor. But when this willingly accepting inconveniences is aimed at pleasing the Lord and serving the devotees, then such is called austerities. And those austerities, they help you to control your senses. They purify the senses. I forgot to mention in one line in our lecture that austerities done in right sense purifies our senses and makes the senses suitable to realize the Lord. Make the senses in such a beautiful position so that they are able to realize the Lord. That is the power of austerity, if they are directed in right direction. Is that okay?
Okay. Thank you much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Sriman Varaha Acharya.
Dandava Pranam Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhu. Thank you very much for being here. There are 2 points. One, I want you to clarify. I kind of noticed the point when you said austerity is what makes us human.
Huh?
You said austerity is what makes us human.
Human, yes.
Not devotees, but human.
Yes.
Right. Now, but then again, you qualify austerity as when we accept inconveniences willingly for the pleasure of Krishna, or when it is connected to God, then that is devotional service, right?
Yeah.
Now, in between, we have there's a statement somewhere in one of the Puranas, maybe, that everything we do is for the self. The father the man loves his wife because of himself, and the parents love their children for the sake of the self. I think you must know that verse. So the scripture says that whatever we do, we're doing it for the sake of the self. And sometimes it makes me to also be more Krishna conscious when I understand that following the rules, whatever I'm doing, actually I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it. It's not because, they are saying it's good for you, but I realize that, yes, I need it, right? So I just want us to see the when we're saying that only for God, only when it is connected to God. But actually everything we do is for the self. And in some point, it can be uplifting when we realize that we're not doing it for the sake of somebody, but we're doing it for our own upliftment, for our own sake. So can you please
okay. So when you do it for yourself, it's beginning. It's not the end. It's not the end, it's just beginning. Okay. And when you go on doing it sincerely, then you understand, oh, I'm not supposed to do it for myself. I'm supposed to do it for the Lord. Then it becomes perfect.
Yes.
Then it reaches perfection. Then we complete.
Okay.
Then it becomes complete and perfect. When you do it for self, there's nothing wrong in it, as long as it's connected with the Lord and you're doing it for self. Then it is the beginning. But if one stage comes, then you will give up your position for your own self, but you start doing it selflessly for the Lord. And that is the real welfare of the self. When you give up yourself from the center of activity and you put the Lord in the center of the activity, you do more welfare to yourself than before when you are doing it for yourself.
Yeah. Yes. So the point is this. I understand perfectly. This being selfless is the highest ideal. That is the highest love, right?
You can begin with self. There's no problem about that. You can begin with the self.
And I like that point. I like that point. But then we also find out that many people give up spiritual life, even devotional service, when they start thinking that, well, they're doing this because of somebody or doing it for someone. They at the point when they start thinking that, why am I doing all this? Why am I suffering myself just because or for somebody? They don't see where they're connected into it. So they give it up.
Because of the selfishness is so much overwhelming for lifetimes together. Right from lower species of life to human life and many human lifetimes, we are so much overwhelmed with this selfishness motivation.
Right.
So we give up. We feel, oh, I just can't do anything for anybody else. I want to go only for myself. That selfishness is, also the association is like-minded selfishness. The people who are you are associating also are similarly minded. Then you just give up in between. But fortunately, if you get company of selfless people and you get motivated and you understand there is more pleasure for the self by becoming selfless. There is more pleasure for the self by becoming selfless. When you understand that, then very easily you give up. So selflessness is the highest selfishness. In other words, in Sanskrit words, Paramartha is the highest Swartha. That means selflessness is the highest selfishness.
Sounds contradictory though.
It is perfect. Because the moment you take self out of your own self, you become most happy in real sense.
Yeah.
Then you become addicted to become selfless.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. I still want one clarification.
Yes.
Okay.
Like for instance, I mean, I understand perfectly, but I just need this clarification for preaching purposes. Like, people say that communism fails. Communism fails because they try to remove the human nature of, satisfying the self, of profit, the need for profit. yeah, that's it. Communism fails because they try to remove the joy of profit, of the sense of attainment. I said anyway, you got what I'm trying to say. So selflessness is what communism is about, but it fails. It fails.
Baseless selflessness.
Excuse me?
It's a baseless, foundationless
baseless.
selflessness.
Baseless selflessness.
Because it's not connected to Krishna.
Yes, the foundation is not there, so it is baseless.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So, Thakur Murari Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
No, Sri Ishopanishad Prabhu.
I'll go again. So, if you remember the story of the one of my favorite stories, chapter 80 and 81 is Sudama Vipra story with himself and interaction with Lord Krishna. So it was so austere as the story goes. And if I'm not mistaken, in the purport they were saying that maybe the Sudama was a little bit more, somebody could austere, but you could be a little bit proud in his austerity. I'm going to reread the purport to see whether or not it was so. But if I'm not mistaken, I saw where she said that maybe it was a little bit more, you could be doing something good, but a little bit of pride was in his austerity. So I think
you have to interpret.
Okay. All right. Murari Prabhu.
Yes.
I guess you were more or less making a comment, right?
Yes, in the sense that austerity, yeah.
Okay, Prabhuji, he is talking about Sudama Vipra, that he was performing austerities, but his austerities was not like austerities to attain anything in particular for himself, but he was just being happy living the way he was living. He was naturally just a very simple person.
For Sudama, austerity did not remain austerity. It became happiness. For us, it is accepting inconvenience willingly to please the Lord. Then a stage comes when the Lord becomes pleased. The inconvenience fails to become inconvenience. It becomes source of pleasure. It becomes a part of yourself. There is no more inconvenience. It becomes your second nature. Sudama was not in the later stage. He was not performing austerity. He was simply enjoying. So-called inconvenience, as understood by you and me, was simply enjoyed by him. There is no more inconvenience by him. So finally, the austerity, the perfection of austerity, is that the austerity ceases to be austerity and turns into pleasure for ourselves also, not to speak of the Lord. The moment the Lord is pleased with your austerity also converts into pleasure for yourself.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much. So, Mother Shri Upanishad, please, you may unmute. Mother Shri Upanishad, are you still there? Well, Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Shri Govinda, please, you may unmute. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Hare Krishna. I'll come back. I was trying to unmute myself and I just figured it out. Thank you. I'll come back. I'll access to this next person, okay? Haribol, sorry.
It's okay. Okay. So Govinda Prabhu, please go ahead.
Prabhu, my respectful obeisances to you. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada.
And thank you very much for your enlightenment. Prabhu, my question is about Lord Brahma performing austerity to be enlightened by the Lord for his service. We all know and understand that for us here in this human form, we are in a human form because of a reason. And the reason is what you are just saying, that we're trying to be selfish. We're trying to enjoy separately from Krishna. And so as a result of that, we are in this human form. And to go back to our original position, we require to perform austerities, to be able to be purified and be self-realized. So I'm wondering, Lord Brahma being the first living entity, and he has to go through austerities, just like some of us. Can you please throw more light? Because if he's the first living entity, and like those in the spiritual world are already self-realized, they know exactly what to do, and they are never contaminated.
No.
So was Brahma coming directly from the...
All of us, all those who are in the material world, they are not perfected souls. Anybody who takes birth in the material world has to undergo difficulties, including Krishna's most closest associates had to undergo difficulties, had to undergo terror of demons, atrocities of Kamsa, and so many other demons. Yashoda Mata had to undergo so much of tension, austerities, Nanda Maharaj, coward boys, They were closest to Krishna, but they all suffered because they were all in the material world. That is the proof that as long as they in the material world, whoever is there in the material world, they have to suffer. The rains came, devastation came, the cyclone came of Trinavarta and caused so much of anxiety. So many ladies aborted when Aristasur came. Indra poured rains like the Samvartaka clouds of devastation, Pralaya. So in the material world, even though somebody is a pure devotee, he has to suffer. And through the example of Brahma, the Lord is teaching us that even if you are Brahma, you have to follow certain set of rules. You are not exempt. You are not exempt about any rules and regulations, except the Lord. So the Lord is only free from all regulations. But everybody else had to follow the regulations. They cannot be free from any regulations. So nobody is born realized soul unless Krishna brings them with him. Everybody has to make their way to the perfection in the material world. If you go to the spiritual world and then Krishna sends you down, then by born we are perfect, like Prabhupada was born, but still he had to undergo childhood, education, and fighting with British as for independence and everything, business, family life, loss, gain, everything he had to undergo. That is a part of material life. Material life is always going to be filled with anxieties and suffering, and we have to go through them. We can't claim that I'm a pure devotee, so I'm a Gopa, so I should not be suffering. As long as we are taking birth in the material world, we'll have to suffer.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
So even though Lord Brahma was born directly from Vishnu,
he's a living entity.
He's a living entity. A living entity, does it? Yeah, Prabhu. Does it mean, yeah, it's a living entity, but does it mean that that living entity has left the association of Krishna before? And so he has become, because if you've never left the association of Krishna, then I don't see why you become contaminated. And then you have to perform austerity again to become purified.
It's a mixture
and
of.
So the question is.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is that as he left Krishna's association before?
Coming down to material world has two purposes. One is to create an ideal example for others as service to Krishna, or a combination of getting purified and being contaminated, but being highly qualified. So you come to a very higher material position, but at the same time you have to continue your purification, suffer and get perfect. And that's the purpose. That's why one way of looking at Brahma is he is a conditioned soul, but is very elevated conditioned soul. So he comes as a position of Brahma, does a lot of great service to the material world, at the same time progresses for his perfection, and then goes back to Godhead, and somebody else becomes Brahma. Or Lord makes him Brahma from spiritual world to exemplify the highest position. But for sure you cannot say our Brahma now is coming from spiritual world, or our Brahma is now conditioned soul. But one thing is for sure, that you and me also can become Brahma tomorrow by qualification, by doing following rules and regulations and become qualified. So any of us being Sachidananda Atma can take a position of Brahma. Anybody of us can become Indra, Ganesha, other demigods also.
All right. Thank you, Prabhu.
This is a perfect question, perfect answer. Thank you so much, Sri Govinda Prabhu and Sri Visvarupa Prabhu. Thank you for the answer. I love the answer so much.
and I have a last question, Prabhu.
Yes.
It's a kind of you know, a question I don't need to ask, but I'll ask. Why is it that in the spiritual world, the denizens don't put up dress? You don't see Krishna dressed, but we often see him with the gallants, turban. But for us to say we are the reality is what we in the spiritual world is what we experience here in the material world, in a perverted reflection. So we like to dress up nicely with a coat and ties and stuff like that. But in the spiritual world, how do they dress? How do they dress in the spiritual world? That is the question. Do they put on dress like us?
The concept of dressing up in the material world is mostly dependent upon the weather around you. That's why you mentioned just now a suit and tie, because you're talking about cold weather. The weather is perfect, then you wear differently. You go to my hometown, South India, hardly anybody wears anything on top. They only wear a waist cloth and put a cloth on the body, and then they go around open chested everywhere. Even the wedding also they will go like that only. So our concept of dressing up nicely is mostly dependent upon the weather around you. But the concept of dressing is relative in the heavens. In the heavens it is different because the atmosphere is different. And it is different when you become perfected souls, spiritual living beings. It is different. All that we think is based upon whatever spiritual consciousness is. If our consciousness is conditioned to the material nature, your concept of dressing up is accordingly. When your consciousness is pure, then your dressing up is accordingly. That's why when spiritual world, everybody is wearing fragrant garlands. That is the way of thought of, that is the concept of dressing up there. To put chandan, and to wear garlands, to put nice tilak, is the supposed to be beautiful dressing in spiritual world. In the material world, in the UK and US, it is completely tying up your neck with a necktie and cufflinks, and tying up your hands with a saving from cold, wearing gloves, wearing caps and overcoat, and wearing double socks and shoes. This is the concept of great dressing. But if you tell me to wear it in Mumbai now, I'll get crazy completely if I dress up like that. I will wear something like very simple cotton, because my weather is very hot. I'll wear thinnest possible beautiful cloth, but not woolen cloth. So all our concept is based on surroundings. So when you become transcendental, then your concept of dressing also becomes transcendental.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Brings us to the perfect time to sleep now.
Yes. I heard Srila Prabhupada one time addressed London as hell, and it was on the news because it was so cold. And Prabhupada said, in the spiritual world, it's not cold like that. So thank you.
The spiritual world is perfectly temperature. Perfect temperature is there. Neither cold nor hot. Is always pleasant and very not very heavily breezy. It's very beautifully breezy, very comfortable. Not blowing off your clothes away, but not even making you feel warm. It's simply wonderful.
Wonderful.
Joyful.
Yeah.
Breeze, the atmosphere, the temperature, the sunlight, the word sound, everything is perfect to give us perfect happiness.
Yeah.
That is spiritual world.
Yeah. Mother Shri Upanishad, please, you may unmute. Go ahead and speak.
Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my pranams. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your divine, wonderful service. Hari Bol, I just want to expound a little bit on having the Maharaj to speak on Shraddha, faith.
Faith, Shraddha. Okay.
Yes. Could you just
pardon me? She wants you to speak on faith a little bit.
Yes.
Shraddha is the beginning stage of bhakti, the first stage
Aye.
with which we begin our journey towards God. And with what does that mean is we keep faith in the Lord, although we have not realized Him, but we keep some theoretical faith in Him and start performing activities favorable to our faith. And then, because of the foundation of that faith, our faith then turns into unshakable faith. That is called nishtha. The Shraddha turns into nishtha. When the contaminations of the soul go away by our practice of spirituality, then that faith transforms into nishtha, the unshakable faith. And then this unshakable faith becomes a platform for the higher realizations of spiritual life. That is attraction, attachment to Krishna, taste for Krishna, the feelings of love for Krishna. All this becomes, all the unshakable faith becomes the platform for these higher experiences. But it all begins from some theoretical faith that we need to keep and attempt our spiritual practices.
Right. So that begins with our devotional service.
Yes,
that's the foundation. Yes.
If there is no faith, then you may chant, you may read, you may hear, you may see the Lord, you may actually have darshan of the Lord. Suppose it has no meaning. There's no meaning at all. Everything becomes meaningful by the power of your faith. Everything that you do, you see, you feel, becomes very meaningful if there is faith. If you have a faith that this is your mother, then everything she does has a meaning to you. And if you feel that this lady is my enemy, so everything that she does to you, whatever good, bad she may do, but if you don't have faith, then you feel this is for harming me only. But if you have a faith that this lady is my mother, she loves me, then whatever she does, even if she slaps you, she loves me. So that is the power of faith. The faith can turn mountains into liquid.
Krishna.
The faith can make the most difficult thing in life the most easy thing in life. It can turn the greatest miseries in life into happiness. It can turn the most unwanted things in life, the most wanted and favorable things in life. That is the power of faith. And that faith we receive by hearing. When we listen carefully, we develop that faith. So one has to listen very attentively to develop faith. And the faith can transform you completely from one end to another. You will not recognize yourself. Transformation that will be caused by faith. You will be amazed to see yourself. That's not you, somebody else.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Thank you so very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very relatable answer. We all kind of related to the answer you gave. Very beautiful.
I must tell you what I felt after I looked at Sri Shopaneshwar Mataji. I felt that she's going to give me a cake in hand. I take it for you. Fresh, hot from oven. Please take it. I felt like that when I saw her.
Jai Hari Bol.
And then she said, I have wait. I'll give me some time. I'll ask the waiter. I was thinking she was baking a cake for me.
Hare Krishna. Jai Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. That was a very true feeling because she's always delivering cakes to the devotees. So many folks.
Guru.
So many.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
On some fortunate day, I will come to Africa to have your cake.
She's actually.
I'm in America.
She's in Cleveland, America.
Okay, Cleveland. Okay.
Yes.
Jai Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you. My pleasure and honor. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Oh, okay. Prabhuji, can you take one more question?
Yeah, I can take.
Okay, so Shrimavara Prabhu, you'll be the last person. Prabhuji has to go. It's late this time. Please, you may unmute Shrimavara Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for accepting this one more question. Just like, I'm having this going on in my head. You see, these days, there are a lot of motivational talks, to motivate people to do the right thing, have the right feeling. But there are certain things you don't even need motivation for. People are easily, naturally attracted to profit. And for that reason, they don't even need motivation for it because, it's like naturally they just want profit. Now, we as devotees, we also trying to motivate people to selfless act, back to devotion. It's so nice to hear. But what is that thing that motivates people to selfless act?
Last line again. Last line again.
What is that thing? What is that thing that motivates people to be selfless? People, for selfish reasons, people are motivated, profit, everything. They are motivated.
What is that motivates people for what?
To be selfless. What is the
selfless?
motivation? Yes, to become selfless. What is the motivation?
Transcendental happiness is only motivation for selflessness.
How do you define that to ordinary people?
See, some things are not definable or not explainable. They need to be experienced. It's like I go on narrating to you what a gulab jam is, how does it look, how it's soaked in the syrup, how it is made of. I go on and on and on describing to you, and you keep asking me, how does it taste? How does it taste? But moment you put it in the mouth, all your queries about gulab jamun will be resolved completely. To a certain extent, we can go on defining what is transcendental pleasure, but at one point of time, all the explanations fail and experience begins. You have to get into practice. Spiritual life is all about practice, less about explanation, and everything is about practice. And when you have practice, you get much, much more than knowledge. That is called as realization. The moment you serve the spiritual master and the devotees, and then you experience pleasure in serving others, that is selflessness. And once you experience that, I worked for myself for such a long time, but I never experienced this satisfaction. And that is the motivation for going on serving others. That becomes addiction. That becomes a habit, second nature, to go on serving others.
Well,
it's not impossible. It is to be practiced, then felt and realized, then becomes unquestionable second nature.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the answer. The person who asked the question actually is a testament to the answer you gave, because this particular devotee has sacrificed more than it can be described to serve his guru. In fact, at some point, somebody may have to write a book because
I wish I could have had his version.
Yeah, somebody may have to write a book on some of the services he's done. So at this point, dear devotees, Prabhuji, in fact, we cannot thank you enough for your love, your devotion, and your wisdom to being with us and sharing your love with us at least once in a month. We truly and honestly cherish your association so much. And we pray that we can have your association more and more in the future, please. Dear devotees, please, we humbly requesting you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant the loudest Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace, Vishwarupa Prabhu ki jai. Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Pavana Bevio, Vaishna Bevio, Namo Namaha.
All glories to Him. Prabhu ki